morals from? Without religion, there can be no limits to your morality. If religion was removed from the world right now, everybody would just run around raping and murdering each other. This is the kind of nonsense I've heard from Christians for a long time. And I've wondered to myself, where in the religion do I find these morals? Is it a pronouncement by God? Is it in the Bible? Is it in the church? Or is it in religion as a whole? Because somewhere specifically I should be able to find a list of these morals that religion offers us that we can't get from secular means, that we can't find within ourselves. So I want to take a look at these. If you ask Christians, they would very quickly tell you that God is the author of morality. But is he? There's a certain conundrum that was posed by Socrates called the Euthyphro dilemma, where he asks the questions, is something moral because God says it's moral? Or does God say it's moral because it always was moral? If something is moral because God says it's moral, does this mean he can change his mind? If he decided tomorrow rape or murder was moral, would it become moral? He tells us himself in the Bible that he doesn't change his mind. In Malachi 3 verse 6, he says, I, the Lord, do not change. In James 1 verse 70, where he's describing himself, he says, he who does not change like shifting shadows. And Hebrews 13 verse 8, it says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I'm tired of hearing this nonsense that sometimes Jesus Christ is the Son of God and sometimes he is God. The Bible must make up its mind. As far as I'm concerned, Jesus is God. It says so in the Bible. So if it says that Jesus is God and Jesus says he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, then God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and unable to change. So God does not change. He doesn't flip-flop between moralities. What was moral yesterday is moral today, will be moral in the future, and was moral 2,000 years ago. This is something to bear in mind when we come to the Bible portion. Alright, so now that we've discerned that God isn't the author of the morality, then we need to look at the second statement, which says that God says it's moral because it already is moral. Now, if God is only repeating what is already a fact, then both him and his statement are irrelevant to the issue. Now, once again, if you ask Christians, God breathed his word into the Bible. It was not influenced by the interpretation of any human writers. And God tells us everything in the Bible is true, it is from him, and it is his written instruction to mankind. If God is good, that means that his moral instruction must be good. But it is not. In his book, God advocates for slavery, subjugation of women, filicide, infanticide, genocide, and homophobia. We can thereby deduce that either God is not good or he doesn't exist at all. I often hear, yes, from Christians, that God wrote his moral code on our hearts, which essentially is our conscience, which dictates our actions. How can this be so difficult? How can God be such a poor communicator? He gives us an unreliable book. He makes us have to discern good feelings from bad feelings. Surely God is capable of speaking to us as clearly as I'm speaking to you, or you can speak to your family and friends. So obviously morals do not come from God. So let's take a look at the other option. Are the morals found in the Bible maybe? When it comes to speaking about the morality in the Bible, obviously always the first thing brought up is the Ten Commandments. Now, I dealt with the Ten Commandments in an earlier video. I debunked their validity. I'll leave in the description below a link to that video. But there aren't only 10 commandments in the Bible. Very few people realize that, but there are actually 613 of them. And none of them carry any moral code. But don't just take my word on it. Listen to some of them. You may not eat shellfish. You may not plant two types of seeds in one field. You may not crossbreed two types of animals. You may not wear clothing made of different fabrics. You may not cut the hair on the sides of your head. You may not eat a mixture of milk and meat. You're not to remove the staves from the ark. You must make an offering of 2 lambs every day, and not to dwell permanently in Egypt. Sorry to the Egyptians who live there, but these are not my stupid rules, they're God's. So it's also clear morality doesn't come from the Bible either. So if religion is the source of morality, shouldn't all religious people be moral? Considering they're the ones telling atheists that they've got no moral code. But many of them are not. Take, for example, Catholic priests who abuse children like it's their reward for celibacy. Alright, so if morality doesn't come from God and it doesn't come from the Bible, where does it come from? The thing is, morality's been around since long before the Bible times, long before God, long before the Christian religion anyway. And there are examples of this in the Bible itself. For example, when Adam and Eve ate the fruit, they hid away from God. When Cain killed Abel, he lied about it. Before Moses killed the Egyptian, he first looked around to check that the coast was clear. And after killing the Egyptian, he hid the body. And when confronted about the murder, Moses lied. These are all examples of they knew that what they were doing was wrong. They lied about it. They tried to cover it up. So they had morals already. Organized, structured Christianity is only 1,700 years old. The Old Testament dates back to 3,200 years ago. Civilizations existed long before Christianity was formed. The Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Mayans, the Incans, Scandinavian countries, the Chinese, the Aborigines, many cultures in Africa. There were civilizations all over the globe long before Christianity came about, long before the concept of the Christian God had been made up. And they all had moral codes already. So morality does not come from religion either. Not only is morality not based in God, the Bible, the church, or religion as a whole, but it is not even unique to humans. There are many animals that show moral behavior. Studies have shown in wolves how, while taking part in play, fighting a dominant wolf will handicap itself, allowing it to be overpowered by the weaker of its friends. Elephants are well known to mourn others of the herd that die, often staying by their side for long periods of time after death. Chimpanzees often display a sense of fairness and justice, and those who transgress this are often set upon by other members of the group as punishment. Rats in a controlled environment had food made available to them, but if they ate, their friends would receive a mild shock. Most rats stopped eating at their friends' discomfort. Vampire bats have been known to share their blood meal with other bats who had been unsuccessful at hunting. Dogs are well known to display signs of remorse after being caught doing something they had already learnt was wrong. Alright, so what do we know so far? We know from the Euthyphro dilemma that God is not the author of morality. We don't get our morals from God. We know that it doesn't come from the Bible. The Bible's message as a whole is overwhelmingly immoral. It advocates for murder, rape, genocide, incest, slavery, deception, and overall moral decay. We know we don't get our morals from religion either, because religion teaches peace, yet more wars have been fought in the name of religion than any other reason. The Muslim conquests, the Inquisition, the Crusades, the French Wars, Northern Ireland, Middle East, the jihads, the Buddhist uprising, the witch hunts, Mayan sacrifices, Incan sacrifices, the Heaven's Gate cult, religious persecution, forced conversion, and the Israeli-Palestine conflict, and many others. Many atrocities have been perpetrated by religion. And this is something I dealt with in my previous video, which is how religion is a cancer on society. And again, I'll leave a link to that video in the description box below. These atrocities, among others, are these circumcision, the clitoral mutilation, withholding medical attention, child abuse, pedophilia, indoctrination, child sacrifice, and the forced body deformation and modification in children. When it comes to religion, Steven Weinberg summed it up very nicely in his quote, and I'm paraphrasing here. It takes good people to do good things. It takes evil people to do evil things. But it takes religion to make good people do evil things. Now that we've discovered where morality doesn't come from, let's take a look and see if we can figure out where it does come from. The best I could work out is that the basis of morality is empathy. If you have empathy, then you have the ability to feel with someone. This is different from sympathy. If you have sympathy, you feel sorry for someone, but you maintain that distance, and their pain doesn't really affect you. But if you have empathy, you feel with the person and you feel their pain, you feel their sorrow. If you cannot bear to see the suffering, that the loss of a loved one that somebody else feels, you won't take a life. If you cannot bear to see somebody suffer the loss of a stolen item, then you wouldn't put somebody else through the pain of having to experience that if you had to steal something from them. If you couldn't bear to see the betrayal on the face of somebody, you would not betray somebody else. These are all examples of morality, and they all have their basis in empathy. If you are good enough inside you to feel for another person, if you cannot bear to feel the loss, the suffering, the pain, you cannot bear to see it on somebody else, then you are moral. You're a moral person, you have morality. So nothing to do with the Bible, nothing to do with God. It all has to do with the morality within you. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. I'd love to get a lot more subscribers. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, and there are going to be many more coming, and I'd love to have you get them when they're hot off the presses. Hit the little bell icon so that you'll be notified as soon as one comes available. And don't forget to like. Thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking to you again.